So we've been working on how readers understand the author's message by asking some questions. And one of the things, and I know as soon as we talked about this yesterday, why did the author include seemingly unimportant details? You guys started remembering details that you'd read earlier in your book that helped you with what you was reading yesterday. So yesterday when we did it, we talked about how in the beginning of Josh McGuire, it was kind of strange how the author spent so much time talking about him getting the motorcycle out of the shed and covering it with a tarp. But later in the book, that really helped us understand why they were having such a hard time finding him, because they didn't know the motorcycle was gone. And we knew all of those details from earlier in the book. Well, it's the same type of thing today. Readers understand the author's question by asking, why did the author spend a lot of time describing scenes? Well, scenes are really important because you get that mental image or that mind movie in your head. And once you have a vision of the setting and where it's happening, when other things are going on in the story, you can actually have a mind movie going. So authors will often, at the beginning of books or when the setting changes, spend a lot of time describing the setting so that you get a really good mind movie. So I'm going to go back to the part where he's in the meadow and he's looking for a place. It's after the storm and he's looking for a place. He hasn't found the cave yet. Okay? Josh turned expectantly. Where was Mudflap? He kept heading toward Pokey, searching as he went. Maybe he would find her tracks. He also looked for some place to hide. In the meadow, someone might find him, but he dared not climb too high on the peak. If another storm came, he'd never find protection up there. He examined the hillside. His rest gazed on a dark hollow in the side of the mountain. Actually, he saw several small holes marking the steep slope, but one looked bigger than the rest and was hidden behind a buttress of rocks. Unless someone looked from this side of the meadow, the space would not be visible. He noticed a stand of trees crowded at the bottom of the rocky face. That would provide firewood. So when we read that, we got a vision of him looking up this steep mountain, and he knows he doesn't want to go clear up on the top, but then he starts seeing the holes, and he notices one's bigger, but it's kind of covered by some rocks. Well, that really helped me make sense of what happened yesterday. Because at the very end of yesterday's, it said that Pokey raced out of sight over the lip of the cave. I can see Pokey going over those up over those rocks and down into the cave. You can't see him because those rocks are kind of in front of the cave. And because he spent so much time describing that scene earlier, I kind of had this vision of what I thought that looked like. So I could see Pokey climbing up over those rocks and going down into the cave. And he didn't have to go through and explain all of that again because he'd done that so well earlier. So you're going to ask yourself as you're reading now, I wonder why he's explaining this in such detail, this setting, knowing that once you get that mind movie, the next time something in that setting comes up, you can actually make your mind movie faster because you know what the setting is. All you've got to think about what the characters are doing. So when I read that yesterday, my mind was able to go right back to where he explained how you had to go up that hill, over those rocks, and down into that little teeny cave. So when it said Pokey ran up over the lip and down into the cave, I already had a movie in my mind and I didn't have to reread that. I wanted to go back and reread it to you guys though, so you could see how the author spent a lot of time describing just how to even get into that cave. The reason, so later, anytime they're by the cave, you have a mental picture of they're up a mountain, not all the way at the top, there's some rocks, so he's kind of hidden, there's some trees where he can get firewood. You kind of have a mental picture, and the cool thing about books is your mountain might look different than my mountain, but you all have a place where you know Josh and Pokey and Mudflap are hiding. And authors spend a lot of time describing scenes so that as they build the rest of the story, you can make your mind movie. Okay? So as you're reading, think about, I remember them describing this. Now I know what's going on. That's the reason they do it. Okay? All right, off you go.